Hi, this is Mike from BandLab, and in this video, we're going to make an industrial beat in BandLab's free online DAW. You can open this project yourself with the link in the video description, and if you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. I begin by setting the project tempo to 150 beats per minute, and the project key to F-sharp minor. Industrial music is highly rhythmic, so the first element I'm going to add is a drum beat, which I can compose the rest of the music around. I add a new virtual instrument track and set it to drums, drum pads, industrial kit. I add snares on the second and fourth beats of the bar. I then add closed hats on eighth notes. I put kicks on the first, fifth, sixth, and eighth notes. I then put cowbells, which in this kit plays a metallic, open hat-like sound between the beats. I duplicate this beat out. To duplicate notes or clips in BandLab, hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows and drag them over. I move the first kick of the second bar over to the right, which adds a subtle touch of funk to the proceedings. I duplicate the MIDI notes out again, and add 3 low toms on eighth notes at the end of the fourth bar. I turn this track down to -12 dB to give me more headroom to add other elements to the mix. Next, I'm going to add a bass line. I add another instrument track and set it to basses, synth basses, drive bass. I compose a bass line that plays on eighth notes, hitting the root, an octave up, and the root again, followed by a semitone down. The first of these semitone down notes plays an eighth note, which adds a touch of rhythmic interest to the bass line. I want to make this sound a bit rougher, so I open the effects panel and add a distortion BL driver effect. I turn the tone up to maximum and set the volume to 1.7. This beat and bass gives me the low down dark dirty feel that I desire, but I'd like to add an atmospheric pad. I add another instrument track and set it to keyboards, synth leads, 80s square lead. I set this track's volume to -8.5 dB. I program a simple part that follows the pitch of the bass line. Currently, this sound dominates the mix, but I really want it to be more of a background sound. In the effects panel, I add a modulation phase 45 effect, setting its rate to 2.4. This thins out the sound and gives it a slow textural movement. I then add a reverb, studio reverb, turning the mix knob all the way up. This makes the part sound as if it's far away from the listener, allowing the drums and bass to take center stage. Next, I'd like a lead sound that will come in during the chorus. I add an instrument track and set it to keyboards, synth leads, dirty legato saw. I set this track to -12 dB. I program in a part that again follows the pitch of the bass line. The second time around, it plays an octave up, with an additional octave skip at the end of the third bar. Currently, this doesn't really have the sense of menace I'm looking for, so it's time to add some effects. First, I add a modulation chorus ensemble, setting the depth to 8.8 and the rate to 4.3. This creates a pulsating effect that I can bring out with some distortion. I add a BL driver, turning the drive and tone all the way up. Notice how this gives each octave a different textural movement. I then add a studio reverb to make the sound more atmospheric. A lot of industrial tracks use bells or other FM sounds, and I'd like to have something like that in my track. So I add a new instrument track and set it to keyboards, synth pads, shadow bells. I set this track to +1 dB. I program in a part that hits the F sharp, then C sharp, then C. To make this part sound more atmospheric, I add a studio reverb, setting the mix to 10 and the size to 3.0. Next, I'd like to add some simple synth sound effects to help transition between sections when it comes to the arrangement. I open BandLab's Sounds and enter white noise into the text search field. Classic white noise is just the thing I'm looking for, so I drag it into the project. I turn this track down to -15 dB. Batter short white noise sweep down O2 also sounds useful. I drag this to the start of the last bar of the sequence, and truncate the start of the sample using the handle at the bottom left-hand corner of the clip, so that the sound starts abruptly without fading in. I turn this track down to -2.4 dB. The sound is quite dry, so in the effects panel, I add a reverb, spring reverb, turning the intensity up to 5.0. This section I've created will function as the track's chorus. I also want a verse and pre-chorus. I duplicate the drum and bass parts out. This will be the verse. I copy out the verse and this time add the bells too. I switch up the bass line so that it plays F sharp, A, F. This will act as the pre-chorus. For the arrangement, I begin with 8 bars of drums for an intro. Then we go into the verse where the bass is added. Then in the pre-chorus, the bass switches up and the bells are added. Then in the chorus, the pad comes in. After 8 bars, the lead line is added. After this, the verse, chorus, pre-chorus pattern repeats, and is followed by a bridge. The bridge feature is a simplified version of the bass line that just plays F sharp and F. After this, the chorus repeats. I use just the bass, pad, and bells for an atmospheric, beatless outro. You can fork this project and make your own version of it using the link in the video description. Have fun!